Shalom. This is Ron Warren with the Nuggets of the Torah. And this week's Torah teaching is on the Feast of Passover as recorded in Exodus chapter 12 and Leviticus chapter 23. Passover is the oldest continued observed feast in the world. It is over 3,500 years. It was celebrated in the wilderness. It was celebrated when the children of Israel came into the land of Israel. It was celebrated during the days of King Hezekiah and King Josiah. It was celebrated after the return from Babylonian captivity. And it was celebrated in the days of Yeshua. So important was Passover that God gave an alternate date for those who were unable to observe Passover in Nisan 14. You will find this in Numbers chapter 9 verses 1 to 14, 2 Chronicles 30 verse 2 and verse 15. No other feast has this context. In history, there are three sets of Passover. The first one is the original Passover. That was done one time. In the original Passover, you had the lamb, the matzah, and the bitter herbs. That's the mortar. It was designed to commemorate the bitter slavery. From Ezra to the destruction of the temple is the second set, and it was added to the Passover Seder were the 4 questions and the 4 cups, as recorded in Exodus chapter 6, verse 6 and 7. The first cup is called the cup of sanctification. I will take you out. The second cup is called the cup of deliverance. I will rescue you. The third cup is called the cup of redemption. I will redeem you. And the fourth cup is the cup of acceptance, and is I will take you to me. Also, what was added at that point was the cup of Elijah, which is also recorded in Exodus chapter 6, verse 8, which is the next verse. The third set deals after the destruction of the temple. What was added to the Passover Seder at that point was the harisset and the roasted egg, which represented the Talmud offering, which was the peace offering that was done in the temple every day. And then also what was added was the afikomen. Now, here's a question. Why was the 15th day of Nisan chosen for the Passover sacrifice? The ram god of the Egyptians, Kahon, was the guardian and the protector of the Nile. He was linked to fertility, and he was the great potter who created children at their conception. He was called the father of fathers and the mothers of mothers. He was also the one who gave health to the child after it was born. And it was the child of this ram god, known as Yah, which was to be slaughtered on the evening of the full moon, at the height of its powers. Its blood was to be disgraced, and the Egyptian would be powerless to prevent it. Now there are 3 changes in the lamb as recorded in Exodus chapter 12, verses 3 to 6, and also verses 8 to 11. The first lamb is called a lamb, one out of many. The verse reads, "Speak you unto all of the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month you shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for a house." And the next one, the next lamb is called the lamb, is chosen, and that's coming from Exodus chapter 12, verse 4, the next verse. And it reads, "And if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb." And you drop down to the next verse of verse 5 in Exodus chapter 12, and you come up with your lamb. Your lamb is sacrificed for you. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year, and you shall take it out from the sheep and from the goats. This lamb was called the crowning sacrifice because of the way it was and is cooked. Consider this. The Bedouins in Israel today live the same way Israel would have lived in the wilderness. They may have a Mercedes and a TV antenna sticking out of the tent, but they would have lived in the tent. Now here's the question. If you were invited to dinner by one of them and they served you lamb, how would it be cooked? Texas barbecue style? No. The lamb would be skinned and it would be placed on a rod standing upright in the fire, and the lamb would be pushed on that rod until the head of the lamb stopped it. Now with that in mind, you got to ask another question. What is a spit? When the lamb is cooked this way, the weakest portions of the lamb is the two front legs. They are too weak and they will fall into the fire. To prevent it, they're going to take another rod called a spit, and it's going to run horizontally, connecting the two legs, producing a cross. The original Passover lamb was crucified. Now, another question. Why is the cup of Elijah in the Passover Seder? It is to remind Israel of the purpose of Elijah. He was to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to the fathers. This is what God is doing with the restoration of the Torah back into the minds of the people. Now, what was the original message of Elijah? It is written in 1 Kings 18:21, and Elijah came unto all the people and said, How long will you between two opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. If Baal, then follow him. And the people answered him not a word. The last day's message for Elijah will be a call back to God and his Torah. The next one we talk about is going to be called the 𝐓𝐻𝐒. The 𝐓𝐻𝐻𝐒 is the dessert of the Passover. It is the last piece eaten, and it is to represent the lamb sacrificed in the temple. This is a broke piece of matzah that was added to the Jewish Passover after the destruction of the temple, and it's the only Greek item on a Jewish Hebrew Passover. Now, how did a Greek item get into a Hebrew Passover? It is written in Acts 21 verse 20, and they were all zealous for the law. These Messianic Jewish believers brought the Lord's Supper and this dessert into their Passover Seders. And when the temple was destroyed, the Jewish authorities took as many functions as they could from the temple and added them to the home. And this was one of the items added. It represented the lamb of Passover and is the last piece eaten during the Seder. It is the middle piece, broken, wrapped, hidden, and then brought out at the end. The Messianic believers saw this as the death and the resurrection of the Messiah. The word 𝐓𝐻𝐻𝐒 had two meanings, hidden and I came. Consider this. On every Passover, the youngest will ask 4 questions to the leader, and one of these questions is, why is this night so different? And on the Passover Seder, its table itself, comes the answer, I came. In Exodus chapter 6 verse 7 it reads, I will redeem you with an outstretched arm and with great judgment. This is the third cup, the cup of redemption. This cup acknowledges that the work of redemption is a work of God alone. He alone redeems his people back to himself and removes them from the grip of Egypt. The doctrine of redemption, which is the fleeing of the slaves into freedom, is the heart and soul of Passover. It is impossible for us to free ourselves from sin. Like Israel of old, we need someone other than ourselves to bring about our redemption. And this cup commemorates the past and symbolizes the future. In commemorating the past, this cup is drunk at the conclusion of the blessing after the meal. It represents your gratitude to God for being the one who sustains all creation. Moses was a type of the Messiah. He prophesied that God will raise up another deliverer. And if you do what he says, you will obtain redemption. This cup becomes the cup of Passover and the Last Supper as recorded in the Brit Hadashah. This cup is also known as used for communion in the church. It is written in Luke chapter 22 verse 20, "And in the same way he took the cup after they had eaten, saying, This cup which is poured out for you is the new covenant in my blood." Now, to symbolize the future, consider this. The Hebrew word 𝐷𝐿 means to redeem, to buy back, to require bloodshed by a near kinsman. This word in the Hebrew denotes the assumption of an obligation that's incumbent on someone to another person or in favor of another person. The lamb of Passover offering was not a sin offering. Yeshua, as the Passover lamb, did not take away your sins. The sin offering is found in the Yom Kippur offerings. It is a redemption offering. God did not redeem you for your sake. God raised up a deliverer, Moses, to deliver Israel out of Egypt because of his covenant that he swore to Abraham. Yeshua came to redeem you because of that covenant. You have been redeemed for a kingdom. And Yeshua said he will not return until the good news of the kingdom has been preached to every nation. And redemption is the buying back that required blood. Remember the blood avenger that would hunt someone down and kill them? Yeshua will become, according to the book of Revelation, the blood avenger for everything that has been done wrong to Israel. Why? It is to perform the covenant that he swore to Abraham. And in this context, you want Yeshua to be your high priest, not the blood avenger. Until we meet again, I will say, from Joanne and I, Happy Passover. Shalom.